Thanksgiving Day, oddly a really, really popular time to snatch up specifically women.
Really?
Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. These are Thanksgiving movies. First one is Prisoners. It's a Thanksgiving movie because two little girls get snatched up on Thanksgiving Day, which honestly, I've been listening to a lot of murder, like true crime podcasts, and so often I'll be like, oh yeah, last seen Thanksgiving Day, etc., etc. I want to pause for a second real quick just to say that over the last couple episodes that you've edited, you've been pretty quiet compared to me.
Okay.
So bump yourself up.
Gotcha.
In the future. But anyways, back to actual podcast stuff. Yeah, it's like Thanksgiving is probably the most common day that I hear, like I feel like there's like even just one serial killer I was like listening to, like the Trailside Strangler or something. There were like 3 different women who went missing on Thanksgiving Day from this guy or whatever. So I just want to bring that up. No real commentary, just an observation.
I'm trying to think of a reason for that. That's got to be because everyone's inside, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I just feel like November, December, I see, are like the dates I hear most often too as I'm listening to these podcasts. I'm like, man, serial killers are really snatching people up in November, December.
I mean, yeah, I guess maybe because it's cold outside and not a lot of people are outside to watch a kidnapping, you know?
I guess so. I don't know. I'll ponder upon it. I'll maybe even might even type something into Google.
Oh,
yeah.
That also sounds to me like I might have like a naive idea of what a kidnapping is.
Yeah.
Because, like, it definitely seems like something that, like, yeah, someone could probably break into your home and kidnap you instead of, like, in my mind, a kidnapping is you're walking down the street and someone puts a big burlap sack over you and throws you over their shoulder.
I think the scariest depiction of kidnapping I've ever seen, and maybe the only depiction I've really seen, because I feel like movies don't necessarily depict the kidnapping part too often, unless it's like an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
But like in actual horror films, I don't really remember a lot of kidnapping happening. But the Buffalo Bill thing, can you help me move this couch real quick? It's like really just get in the back there or whatever.
Yeah. Forgot about that. Yeah.
That's such a spooky scene in that movie. We're not talking about that kidnapping movie though. We're talking about Prisoners. I think I already mentioned that. You got a history of Prisoners?
No, just been on my list forever. Constantly see the scene of Hugh Jackman yelling at Paul Dano and hitting the hammer against the sink.
Smash up some porcelain.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think I've only seen this movie one time before this, and I really, really think that when my mom met her current husband, we were like up in like his family's cabin or something, and we rented like 2 movies for like New Year's Eve, and that was one of them. And I remember just watching that in that little cabin setting with my entire family, basically.
Good family flick.
I've also got a nice little letter here, so let's see what's going on here. Prisoners, 2013. After the sudden Thanksgiving disappearance of the young girls, fathers Hugh Jackman and Terrence Howard torture a man who they know full well has the mental capacity of a small boy. Meanwhile, Detective Nightcrawler tries to detect some clues. Instead of doing any real detective work, Mr. Nightcrawler accidentally falls down into a literal hole full of evidence and has a temper tantrum so big it accidentally solves the case for him. Anyway, 7.5 out of 10. This is, in my opinion, the sister movie to like Zodiac. It's like not necessarily as good, but it has just like the same kind of vibes.
It is a thriller. You know? I was thrilled watching it, and that's all I have to say about it. I couldn't
tell you a single scene from Zodiac, even though I've seen it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I just know the general vibe of dark, gray, bluish. Nightcrawler's there. Robert Downey Jr.'s there.
Yep.
Creepy basement. I think Nightcrawler's in the basement. And
the
guy's
Hulk is
being
there.
Creepy.
Yep.
Hulk's also there. This one we just watched it, so obviously it's a little fresh on the mind. To begin with, it starts with Hugh Jackman taking his little boy, who, I'm not trying to be an asshole, and I apologize. Easily, this kid is the worst actor in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he gets like maybe 3 lines, and that's for the best. But
he ends up getting it together because he's in other movies, and he's not bad.
Great. Yeah, no disrespect. But anyways, Hugh Jackman tells him, like, this is a shoot a deer. This is a what a man do.
Our Father who art in heaven.
Yes. So he loves hunting, loves God. He's a doomsday prepper.
Has a goatee.
His best friend, Terrence Howard, is obviously more well-off. And they go over there for Thanksgiving, which is cool and interesting because this is a tiny nitpick, but how come these are two families that don't have any other family? Where is Grandma? Where's Grandpa? Where are some aunts and uncles? You guys are just...
Yeah, you're right. You feel like these
what the
people,
fuck is this?
If they didn't get here for Thanksgiving, they would show up because the daughters are missing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what they have in common. It's like, hey, we have no extended family, and neither do you. So
sure.
But also,
I might have missed the backstory. I don't know, but
also, if I did find a family like that, after having no extended family, we had this bond and we really got to know each other. And I went there on Thanksgiving, and then one of them pulled out a trumpet and went, "Anyone got a request?" That would be the last time I saw those people.
Terrence Howard, I know we've been friends since we were 11 years old, but this is it.
This is an absolute nightmare. This is the last straw.
Was a nightmare. Almost as bad as both little girls getting snatched up. I will say another scene I find pretty funny is when they first bump into the RV. The little girls just start like climbing on it and like kicking it and shit like that.
Oh yeah.
To like a level where I'm like, I know that kids are little devils or whatever, but like I was almost like, I don't know. It was. I would have at that point. I would have been like, "What?" I actually would have been like, "What the fuck are both of you thinking?"
Yeah. No, I feel like
I would have not been cool about it.
From my memory, being that age.
Yeah.
Like young boys, if they start climbing on that thing and they're like, "Hey, get down from there," and they go, "No," it's like, "Get down." They get down and be like, "Oh, harumph about it." And a girl that age who gets up there is like, "Hey, get down." It's like, "No, I'm just going to ignore you. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing."
Anyways, the girls get snatched up.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Did we? So that RV. So Paul Dano was in that.
Yes.
Okay, and so Bad Mom used Paul Dano to lure the girls, or Paul Dano just brought them home, and the Bad Mama was like, perfect.
Yes, Paul Dano, because he's got the brains of a 10-year-old boy, was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna ride these kids around in my RV because they think it's cool, and I think it's cool too, and then I'll introduce them to my aunt, and aunt was like,
yeah, this is my specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do like this film.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little wild.
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Yeah, so then there's also this guy who looks like Paul Dano. He lives nearby, and this lady has a husband who used to be the mastermind of snatching up the kids, who then showed up at this priest who was a diddler's house and confessed that he was diddling. And this priest that used to diddle suddenly felt so compelled as to like I guess seal him in the basement until he starved or something, as punishment for the awful stuff that he said he was doing to the kids. But then again, like I said, like this is a guy who diddles kids, so whatever. But and then there's also the guy who looks like Paul Dano, and he was snatched up by this guy and got away. And I know there's this book about kind of that he's now obsessed with.
Yeah.
And then also, like, he keeps boxes of snakes because I guess the guy who's dead in the basement of the priest used to keep boxes of snakes. And, like, he has the necklace that is the maze from the book.
Yeah.
Like, the guy who does the kidnapping has the maze necklace from the book that isn't based on his stuff. He just... No, it's like, I thought it was, like, a fictional story about, like, a kid who, like, escapes or whatever, something like that. And that the kid who escaped in real life got, like identified with it so much that, like, he just became obsessed with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought...
So he was also, like, a fan of it?
I thought... Okay. Zoom all the way out.
Yeah, okay.
Tell this like a normal story instead of how this movie is set up, which I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's good for a whodunit. This is how
it's a good thriller. It's a good thriller.
But all the things... We'll start with Kid Diddler Prime, the top guy, the dead guy in the basement.
The guy in the basement.
He is a cult leader type dude.
Okay.
Who him and his wife make this special drink that they feed to
I forgot
kids.
about the lean, yeah.
Yeah. And they kidnap kids, diddle them, kill them, make them their own kids, because wasn't Paul Dano a kid that they kidnapped?
Yeah. There's like a newspaper headline at the end that says, like, kidnapped boy finally reunites with family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the guy from The Dark Knight, Polka Dot Man from...
Yeah.
Those were also two kids that they kidnapped. Polka Dot Man got away and still isn't over it, so he's just kind of imitating them. And that book, I think, got written about him, is what I understood about Kid Diddler Prime. And also, he just liked this maze for some reason. I don't know.
The maze is in the book.
Yes.
It's how you find the bodies or something.
He's also got, the main guy has a necklace on with that on it when he's. And then, so all that's happening. And then one day he's talking to his wife and goes, I'll be home later. And he goes to talk to the priest because he's been talking to that priest. And the priest goes, you know what? I got a basement with no stairs. I'm going to throw you down there. Put a fridge in front of it. And then he dies. And then an undetermined amount of time later, Paul Dano accidentally brings his 2 kids home. And wife goes, cool. I've been missing kidnapping kids, so I'm going to kidnap these 2 kids. Yeah. And then our movie starts.
Yeah.
So, also the book thing, I think it's fine that neither of us are clear on the book, because the book comes up for literally 30 seconds and they give you the most exposition I've ever heard, and then they're immediately gone.
Yeah. And so the guy who looks like Paul Dano, Polka Dot Man, he's like trapped in this, like, I do love his thing or whatever, like where Nightcrawler shows up and he's like, hey, you shop at Albertson or whatever? He's like, no, I do a little bit close shopping or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, you got kids? And he's like, no. And he's like, you bought children's clothes. He's like, did I must have been in a hurry. Like,
so funny.
It's really genuinely good. Like, I really would like more of Polka Dot Man in that movie. I feel like they could have been, for what it was, but like, I don't know, I just, especially him and Jake Gyllenhaal, I'm going to put that in the category of like things that will never happen probably, but I hope they do.
Yeah, I'd like to see that guy more in this movie and more in movies in general. Yeah. I like that guy quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Figure out his name so we can stop calling him Polka.
Yeah, we're calling him Jake Gyllenhaal Nightcrawler. But anyways, so that is and also Paul Dano, as we mentioned, has the mind of a boy. Which is kind of like this is a very dark and depressing movie for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably one of the most depressing movies, I can think of outside of something like Schindler's List, which I've never seen, but like I know that people can call that like one of the classics because it has to do with the Holocaust and that is depressing. But also like Requiem for a Dream is something that always bums me out. But this one is a pretty bleak and dark one. So anyways, long story short, the night that they're... Not long story short. Long story long, because this is a movie podcast. All right, long story long. Nightcrawler, first night, finds RV with Paul Dano in the woods, and Paul Dano, like, tries to basically kind of, like, attempt suicide-ish by, like, driving into a tree. Doesn't work. You remember this?
Yeah, I just read that as him being confused and scared and trying to get away, but also being a man-child, so he didn't know. So then they take him in, and immediately Nightcrawler is just, doing the bad cop thing where he's just like, where'd you put him? Huh? Where'd you put him? Where'd you put him? Where'd you put him? He won't say anything. Side note, I'm a straight guy. Me and you have talked about this.
Okay.
When someone has the haircut that Jake Gyllenhaal has in this movie, it's kind of shaved on the sides and it's slicked back on top, and they get angry and like a few strands fall in front of their face. So bricked, Chris. Can't even tell you the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what happens. I think like, we're not gonna get it, but basically like Nightcrawler's like, got enough to hold this guy, and I think Wolverine is like, you gotta fucking hold this guy, okay? Hold this guy. He killed my daughter. Hold this guy.
And Jake Gyllenhaal's like, listen, I'm a cop and you're a guy with a goatee, so I'm gonna let him go.
Yeah. He does ask the chief, but the chief lets him go because there's that scene later where he's like, hey, I asked you to hold him. He's like, I can't just do anything. He's like, well, now we got a problem, whatever.
Love the chief in this movie. I think he used the perfect amount, but every time it's him and Jake Gyllenhaal, he's just like a bigger kind of schlubby dude, and he's like, I don't know what any of you want from me.
Yeah, I will say it clashes so much with like how like cool Jake Gyllenhaal looks. Yeah. Like, because you go into that and then you just I believe that guy is really genuinely a police chief.
Yeah, absolutely.
He looks like a real life cop.
Yeah, and he just so happens to have a Jake Gyllenhaal detective named Loki. It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah. With like tattoos on his neck and shit.
Love it.
But anyways, basically like out in the parking lot, Paul Dano says some weird shit to Wolverine, like they only cried when I left them or whatever, and then that just sends him off. So he stalks Paul Dano with the intent to kidnap him, and then Paul Dano does that weird shit where he like noose hangs his dog for a quick second while he's out taking a walk or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is that just because he's dumb?
Yeah, like is that like when you're a boy, you just do things without thinking sometimes, no impulse control?
Could be,
or...
you know?
But whatever. So he kidnaps Paul Dano, takes him.
Paul Dano's also singing the song that his daughter was singing.
Yes.
Oh.
To be fair, though, that is a silly detail where he's like, "Where'd you hear that song?" And it's like everywhere. It's Jingle Bells, but with the Batman lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not like it was like some obscure like German like like something that only his grandmother sang to his daughters.
Great point. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's me nitpicking, but yeah. He takes him to the like apartment complex that his father owned. His father killed himself in there. His father's dead, obviously, because he killed himself. I just said that. And he just ties him up, goes against Terrence Howard, and he's like, "Got a gift for you, buddy." They go back to the place, and he's like, "We're going to beat him up until he tells us where our daughters are." And Terrence Howard's like, "Nah, man, nah." And he spends the rest of the movie just crying and not actually saying anything. He just looks at people, and people can infer what he means by his look for the rest of the movie.
It is arguably Terrence Howard's best performance and probably the easiest
paycheck
of his life. And so good on you, Terrence.
So yeah, he doesn't want to. He reluctantly agrees to torture this mentally, stunted man.
Do you remember when Terrence Howard was like, "You know what? I think I'd rather not be Iron Man's friend for the next 10 years. I don't think that's going to pan out for anybody."
I think what it was he wanted more money, and they were like, "No, you're not worth more money. We'll go get another guy.
We'll go get Don Cheadle." Yeah. Which great choice. I do love Don Cheadle infinitely more than Terrence Howard.
Yeah. I'd like to see Hustle and Flow though.
Yeah.
Never seen it, but I know that was his big one. So anyways, where are we at in this film? They're doing the beatings. Nightcrawler's tracking down leads, and I think he goes to that memorial that night, and I do like this scene where like the polka dot man puts the bear there, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" And then he follows him, and he like drop kicks him from the fucking, the treehouse. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, drop kicks him from the treehouse and stuff. And that comes up later when he comes to the door, and he's like, "You ran from me that night." I was like, No, I don't think I've ever seen you.
I like that Polka Dot Man's only crime in this movie is he's just a little freak.
Yeah, he like breaks in and steals socks from them or something.
Because he likes pretending that he's the killer, and that's why he's buying the kids clothes and stuff like that. But instead of dead kids, he's just got boxes of snakes.
Snakes, yeah. Very weird guy. Very weird guy. What else is really going on? There's the mom, the Hugh Jackman wife, is just straight up just drugged and drunk in bed, just can't even, can't deal. There's a pretty, tough scene where he tells Hugh Jackman, he's like, "You gotta be an adult for me, okay? You gotta be a grown up right now, right? Okay?" So, it's pretty tough stuff. There's a scene later where the kid, is like, "She's never coming home," like very spotty or whatever, but that's really all. I mean, you get just a lot of Hugh Jackman going back there and beating up little Paul Dano. Paul Dano just won't say a word. Then he puts him in this like crazy cabinet with a shower in there, hot water and cold water, and then ropes in Terrence Howard's wife because Terrence Howard tells his wife.
Such an underutilization of Viola Davis.
Yeah, she works. Crazy. Yeah, she's a great performance in this thing.
She's out of control in everything that she's in. So for her to be in like a scene and a half in this movie is criminal.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing to point out about this movie. The Prisoners. I know that it gets a lot of praise online, and like I said, I think it's considered to be as much as like Nightcrawler or something, like one of those like early 2010s like kind of film bro movies. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's also definitely like everybody knows like, "Oh yeah, you mean that movie with Paul Dano, Polka Dot Man, Hugh Jackman, Viola Davis, and Jake Gyllenhaal all in a thriller for some reason." Yeah, of course we know what that movie is, and it's pretty good. But a lot of great performances in this. I mean, I think Hugh Jackman, honestly, this is probably the best performance I've ever seen him give.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a better one, and I can't, if I'm being honest. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's that. But yeah, so basically, then eventually, Hugh Jackman becomes a suspect because he's being all weird and slinking off to this property that, Jake Gyllenhaal didn't know. I do like Jake Gyllenhaal's little eye twitch thing, the way that he blinks like very forcefully.
Yeah.
It's a good touch.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good touch.
I like and I don't like their dynamic, Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal, because it's just Hugh Jackman going, "This guy's fucking up to something, and I know it," and Hugh Jackman going, my daughter has been kidnapped. You should be doing something about this. And he's like, I kind of am, because I'm not going to say it to you, but I'm pretty sure you kidnapped your own daughter.
Yeah.
And then anytime any development comes, Hugh Jackman's like, you did this. This is your fault. You haven't found my daughter. It's because of you. It's tough. I hate it.
There's also a degree to which where, like, there's something about how manly Hugh Jackman is that, like, Jake Gyllenhaal just seems like he might as well be Donnie Darko. In comparison. Like, but anyways, like, Jake Gyllenhaal goes into the basement and he sees the bags of lye, and one of them is like, half used, and he's like, okay, so this guy dissolved his daughter, murdered and dissolved his daughter for sure.
Yeah, and he's a prepper, so it like immediately makes you think, oh yeah, this guy's not all there.
Yeah, absolutely. But eventually, there's a bunch of twists and turns like that. Like, the polka dot man becomes the prime suspect, and they don't really make a big. I feel like it should have been this is a nitpick perhaps, but I feel like Paul Dano missing should have been such a bigger deal in the news and with the police, right?
Yeah,
like it's one of the chief suspects. And he's just gone. No one can find him, and no one's talking about it.
He's one of the chief suspects, and Hugh Jackman, since day one, has been obsessed with him.
Yeah.
The minute that kid has been gone for 72
hours... You take Hugh
hours,
Jackman in, you interrogate him.
You take Hugh Jackman in, and you search every property that he owns, including that giant fucking apartment building.
Well, that's the other thing is, like, why wouldn't you tell me about this property? Or if it was like, I feel like you're a detective. Shouldn't you be able to, like,
you
look
should know.
into... Yeah. So those are two nitpicks I have for sure. One is that, like, where's the scene where Hugh Jackman gets interrogated about that? Because for sure you take him in and you ask questions.
Yeah.
The other one is, like I said, like, what do you mean the detective had no idea that he owned property? Like, I feel like that's public record. Like, you can go down to City Hall and find that kind of stuff out. I don't know if it's, like, vice versa. Like, you're supposed to have the property first, and you can just be like, oh, who owns this? Or if you could just, as a police officer, be like, pull Hugh Jackman's record. What does he got going on?
I feel like it could be that one. That one
I
makes
feel like
the
it
most
probably
sense
could.
to me.
So those are two nitpicks I have.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think the movies are bad for these things. I'm just noticing
just
little things here and there.
Plot holes in a movie, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a movie I think that was written by a European gentleman, so maybe things are different over there.
Could be.
Little things here and there. But
Dude, a woodpecker.
Hey, super cool.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, what else really happens? I think there's a certain point where Hugh Jackman goes over there to, like, kind of clear his conscience with the old lady, just hang out for some reason.
No,
he's not suspicious of her just yet, right? It's the second time.
No, he goes there to investigate because Paul Dano very quietly in his torture shower goes, "At the center of the maze is where you'll find them." And then he's like, "Okay, I'm going to go to his house and try to find a maze somewhere."
Oh, right.
He gets spooked by old lady while he's there and decides to come back later. But also, they got Polka Dot Man in prison, and that's my favorite thing about this movie, is it doesn't, like, harp on it too much, but it's definitely there. Every, like, true crime thing that you can see is the interviews with a bunch of police officers just running around in circles, and then the narrator goes, and then the detectives got the piece of evidence that they've been looking for the whole time, and someone calls in an anonymous tip, or just something falls into their lap. That's all this movie is. Jake Gyllenhaal just trips over his dick into evidence constantly. He's so bad at his job, and all these cops are so bad at their jobs to the point that they have Polka Dot Man in prison, and he manages to get one of their guns and shoot himself. Like,
not just anybody's gun either. I think it's Jake Gyllenhaal's gun.
No, I think it's one of the other officers' guns.
Okay.
Which fired. Like, I don't get how they let Jake Gyllenhaal do the rest of this case, let alone any other case. But also all cops are bastards, so it makes sense. But and then, like, even at the end, like, they hint that he finds Hugh Jackman down in that hole, but he doesn't find Hugh Jackman down in that hole. Hugh Jackman just has a whistle and is blowing into it because no one thought to, I guess, check under that Firebird for some reason.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, that's an interesting thing too. Again, this is just nitpicky. But they mentioned, like, she says something to Jake Gyllenhaal at one point where she's like, "Aren't you supposed to have solved every case you've ever been on?" And he says, like, "Yeah," or something.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. That's just like that's like too Clint Eastwood for me.
Absolutely, yeah.
It should have been him saying something like, "Well, there's a few that got by, but pretty good," or something like that. It would have been all right. Just a little something to.
I believe homicide hunter Joe Kenda has done that, and no one else.
Yeah. But anyway, so long story short, so Hugh Jackman then is told by because they find one of the girls. One of the girls shows up. She gets away, right?
Yeah.
And she says, "You were there," and then Hugh Jackman goes, "Okay, yeah, the maze thing being the house, and I was there. I was at the house. They have to be at the house. Like they have to be at the house." So he pulls up there. He's got,
and instead of telling anybody, just decides to run and have all the cops chase him there.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's one of the things where he should have been like, I feel like realistically, it would have been like, she's at the house. She's at the house. You know, he probably would have said it like a million times, like just she's at the house, like running up. But again, for the sake of the movie and the thriller, it's good. It works. But he does show up, and I'm gonna chalk it up to sexism. He doesn't just come in there with the gun out.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, she obviously pulls a gun first because she knows what's up, and she goes, "Hey."
Yeah, because he comes over at 10 at night and goes, "I thought I would fix your screen door for you." And she's like, "You really don't have to do that." He goes, "I'm gonna do it." And she's like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah. So she then pulls out the 2-liter of purple drink and says, "Have a drink." And he goes, "No, I'm not drinking that." And she goes, "If you want to see your daughter again, you'll drink that." And then so he starts chugging it.
I love also that, in hindsight, the most suspicious thing I've ever seen, but when he shows up there, until she pulls a gun on him, she literally just has both of her hands under a kitchen towel because she's holding a gun.
Yeah. And basically, she just, she does she gets caught monologuing a little bit. She just talks about, yeah, I do this. I used to do it with my husband. He's been gone for a while. We stole Paul Dano. We stole your daughters. We got him, we put him in this hole for a little while. Now they're in the house, whatever, but you're going to get in this hole now. So get in this hole. He's like, "No, I'm not getting in the fucking hole." And she's like, "Get in the hole or I'll shoot you." And he's like, "No, I'm not getting in the fucking hole." And then she shoots him and he's like, "Okay, I'm getting in the hole. I'm getting in the hole.
You're going to have to shoot me to get me in this hole." And she's like, "All right." She shoots him. He's like, "All right, I'll get in the hole."
Yeah. Gotta be one of my favorite parts of the movie for sure.
And then Jake Gyllenhaal just kind of shows up for some reason. I don't remember why.
But he shows up.
Oh, because they find Paul Dano. So
Yeah.
he goes there to tell her that. And
yeah, but he gets tipped off. He's going over there for sure because he knows something's up over there or whatever, or something, or to tell whatever. And basically he knocks. She doesn't answer, and then he hears some noise inside. So he's like, "What the fuck?" And he like looks in, sees something weird, whatever, goes in, and she's like injecting drugs into the girl still, and he's like, "Put your fucking hands up, kind of a thing." And then doesn't she like pull a gun so she gets shot by Jake Gyllenhaal or something?
Yes, and then she shoots him like in the side.
What does she
of the
say
head?
right before that though? She says something like
"Tough titties, Walter Mitty."
Yeah. Whatever. Probably something like, "At least I died doing what I love." Yeah, so he gets grazed, and then he goes on the Batman style Matt Reeves. For a second, I honestly literally Googled, did Matt Reeves direct this? Because,
That's so funny.
Just the way that it's all shot of him driving her frantically to the hospital looked so much like Batman to me.
Maybe the most tense I've ever been watching a movie during this scene for some reason.
Yeah.
Because he's just driving so frantically, and it's raining so much, and
his vision's going.
Because he just got shot in the head, and I was like, "Oh, this movie is a bummer, and it's gonna end with Jake Gyllenhaal dying with this girl in the backseat of the car. That's how this movie's gonna end."
Yeah.
And thank God it didn't.
Yeah. Wrap it up. He's a hero, and the mom comes in, and she's like, "You think we'll ever find my husband?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You gonna send him to prison, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "He's a good man," or whatever, and starts crying really hard. And that's a nice scene or whatever. And then
she's like, "So, in case you're interested, my kids aren't gonna have a dad. So if you'd like to do something next weekend."
And then it ends with him just being kind of on the property, and there's like people, digging up shit, trying to find bodies and stuff, and they're just like, it's literally 10 p.m. in winter, so this is pretty cold. We should come back when the sun's back. And he's just standing there, and in the distance, you can hear.
Oh yeah, because his daughter lost her whistle, and it was at the bottom of that hole. Turned out to be.
Yeah. And Jake Gyllenhaal keeps going, "What? What's that noise?"
Must be hearing things.
Yeah, and then it goes to black. Which, if I heard that, honestly, I'd probably think it was just the wind.
Yeah, you absolutely would, yeah.
Yeah.
And
you know what it should have been? It should have been like a kazoo or something.
Like a train whistle. A big wood train whistle. That would have been so funny.
So that's Prisoners, and this was your first time seeing it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, it was a thriller. I was thrilled.
Yeah, definitely thrilled.
My biggest issue with it is I thought it really came to a head when Hugh Jackman's going to the property, but he stops at the drugstore because he can see Jake Gyllenhaal's following him.
Yeah.
And it's raining like crazy. And I'm like, This is for sure the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's post-Thanksgiving. It's raining so much, it should be snowing.
Yeah.
This is wild. And then during that scene, Hugh Jackman walks over to him, and when it goes to the reverse shot, it's snowing.
Yeah.
And then when they're back in his car, it's raining. I'm like, this movie needs to make up its mind. And like from then on, the whole movie, it is raining and snowing at the exact same time, and it really bugged me.
Yeah. Otherwise, closing thoughts?
Pretty good. Not bad. Don't know if I'll ever watch
Favorite
it again.
scene?
Favorite scene? Favorite scene is probably...
For me, it's either got to be showing up at Polka Dot Man's house or the drive to the hospital. Those two are my faves.
Yeah, I would say probably showing up to Polka Dot Man's house because it's... Yeah, both of those scenes were crazy tense. Like, yeah, when he opens up the boxes of snakes before that, when he just sees all the boxes, I was like...
Yeah, he's like hammering the fucking...
And he's like calling the daughter's name, and I'm like, fuck, this movie. If this movie shows me a bunch of dead kids and a bunch of boxes, I'm going to be ruined for the next couple weeks.
Yeah. And as far as least favorite goes, it probably has to be just kind of generally how it shook out with the old lady. I mean, I know it's a movie, so it has to be like silly, goofy. I mean, we'll talk about that with Rudy also, but like, yeah, just like the whole thing where she's like, yeah, this is my favorite thing to do, and it was my husband's favorite thing to do too, and now I'm going to murder your daughter, you fuck. You know,
she becomes Dr. No at the end of it.
Yeah, she becomes a Bond villain. I think it'd be so much creepier if, I don't know, she was just handled a little differently in that third act. So just that scene, plus when Jake shows up later, those two, I don't know, she's just... I couldn't even tell you how I'd want it, but it's just a little... I think you put the nail on the head. She just becomes a little bit too much of like a Bond villain kind of a thing, where she's like, Mr. Bond, you've fallen into my trap, mine and my husband's trap. Yes. We've done this for decades. Yes.
Yeah, because the whole movie, she's like, I'm just this sweet old aunt. Yeah. And then immediately she's like, oh, jig's up. The mask is off. It's like, no, you should still be...
She's like, that's right. I'm the old lady from the Goonies.
Yeah. Her personality should be in the middle of that the whole time, I feel like. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately, you know, at the end of the day, I gotta give this bitch a C+.
I'm gonna give this bitch a B-.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down. And that's that for that. Other than that,
our other Thanksgiving movie
was a little movie called Rudy.
Rudy.
Came out in 1994, correct?
Correct. 1993.
1993. You got any history with this thing?
No. I just know the name of a movie, Rudy, and also that it is football. That's all I knew about it. I just know that a movie called Rudy is about football.
I knew Rudy because of school. I think at one point they made me watch Rudy in school. Can't remember why. But anyways.
Feels like a school movie for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Like October Sky or whatever with Jake Gyllenhaal making rockets in their backyard in West Virginia. That's another movie they made me watch in school. So yeah, heartwarming drama, according to this letter I received, about a teenage boy following his high school sweetheart as she attends the college of her dreams, except instead of being in love with a college girl, Rudy is in love with a college football. Annoyingly persistent and dumb as hell, Rudy works his way up the chain of command at the University of Notre Dame until eventually he pesters and prods his way into the football team. Then Vince Vaughn scores a touchdown, winning the big game, while the crowd chants, Rudy, 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 4 out of 10.
I think in school, the movies we watched the most for some reason were Castaway and Monster House.
Very strange.
I've seen Monster House probably 100 times.
That's crazy.
And this kid, I remember all the time would be like, hey, did you know, like... Joke worked on me every single time, but he would, every time Monster House would come on, he goes, hey, did you know that the world ran out of cheese for an entire month because they had to make this movie, and everyone in this movie's made out of cheese? I'm like, all right, man.
It's very funny. It's a good bit. So yeah, to begin with, this is a true story, which is cool. You know, friend of the show, Will, was talking to me a couple days ago, and he's like, man, I can't stop thinking about that movie, just that thing of like, you know, the cliche thing of like, yeah. If you have your dreams, work hard. Yeah. Not just that. He was like, but just that thing where it's like, if that guy can do it, then like for sure I can do something with my life. You know what I'm saying? Like for sure I can accomplish something. You know, which is the point. This is kind of like a bad Rocky, but it's basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is. Yeah. Also, one of those movies that just like, I don't mean to be a dick, but like everybody working on it it's just like it's so like cartoonishly a movie. This is like one of those movies that like you see a fake trailer for.
Yeah.
In a movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like it's just like there's not a single line of dialogue that just isn't like, yeah, Rudy, yeah, and one day you'll be playing ball for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's right. One day I will be playing ball for Notre Dame. And the third person is like, gosh, are you ever gonna let up on that dream, Rudy?
Yeah.
You know?
You're not gonna get anywhere with your head in clowns like that. Get back to the steel mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's jump to the end real quick. I think this movie's bad. I don't like this movie.
It's not good.
I'm glad that Will got that out of it, but all I got out of this movie was probably a lot of this didn't happen this way, but this movie is just not to be a soy boy liberal cuck, but this movie is just white privilege for 90 minutes because he's just a white guy who does not have the grades to go to this college.
Yeah.
He's not big enough to play football here.
Yeah.
And he also can't read and doesn't have a home, but he just goes, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this over and over again and going into very important people, forcing his way into very important people's offices.
Yeah.
And going, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And everyone goes, this kid's got spunk, I'll give it to him. But if it's anybody else other than a guy who looks exactly like Sean Astin, they would be like, oh, you're going to jail because you won't leave anyone. You're trespassing everywhere you go in this movie.
Yeah, that is a very interesting thing about it. It's something I noticed maybe 3/4 of the way through was like, I was like, man, like his behavior sometimes is not far removed from something like Nightcrawler. Like, the way that like, you have to be a student to participate in like the extracurriculars for students at Notre Dame, and yet despite not being a student, to gain access to the locker room, he lies, says he's a student, and it's not until he lets it slip at the bar later that like I go to Holy Cross or whatever, and the lady who runs the program is like, hey, you can't be a part of this anymore. It's literally for students.
Yeah, you lied to me.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, come on, please pretend like I didn't say that or whatever. And she's like, no, that's not how the world works, buddy. Same thing like when he becomes a janitor at Notre Dame. He like unlocks one of the windows so he can sneak in there and sleep. I get it. He's homeless for sure. But also, like, again, like, no hesitation. And it's not even really that he wants somewhere to sleep. It's that he's like, oh, fuck, I get to sleep in the fucking Notre Dame locker. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's...
Yeah, also, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he ever does any janitorial work in this movie.
No, there's so many scenes where he's like, we got work to do. And then Rudy's just like, yeah, we're going to get him. And we're going to run to the left. And we're going to run to the right. And like...
Football. And the janitor's like, oh, this guy. And it's like, fucking...
He's almost like a Mad TV skit for most of this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jon Favreau's there. He's great. He plays D-Bob.
Oh, I love D-Bob. Yeah, that's the best way to put it, too, is like I feel like I really like everything around Rudy in this movie.
Yeah, like I like the vibes, I like the setting, but like, I don't like Rudy or his journey at all.
Yeah.
It's just...
But yeah, it starts with a cold open on him just playing some ball with the neighborhood kids and whatever. Again, it's just like so cliche, just like, come on, go along, Rudy. Or just like, yeah. Fast forwards to him being in high school. He plays on the team. And I really do like this scene where the coach literally says, like, all right, seniors, last game this Friday. Sanchez, Johnson, Juarez, Chavez, you four, you're going to go on to play college ball. For the rest of you, this is the last goddamn time you're ever going to be on a fucking football team, you fucking fat losers. And Rudy looks all sad. And they play or whatever. And then just for 4 raw dog years, he's just working at it. He just...
Yeah,
like Will said, he was like, "Oh my god, imagine what happened if Rudy wasn't there to poke the fire with his stick all day, because he just stands next to a giant metal vat that's just spilling fire, and he's just got something that he's like pushing into it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
and he does that for 4 years and saves up $1,000, and that's enough for him to be homeless and go to Notre Dame.
And he,
because his friend dies.
Oh, wow. I totally forgot about his dead friend who was like, you know what? You're going to go to Notre Dame here. But so embarrassing. His friend buys him that Notre Dame jacket.
Yeah.
And to show up at a school you don't go to and wear that jacket is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Yeah.
It's like going to your local basketball court and being dressed in a full Michael Jordan Bulls outfit.
Yeah. But yeah, he has a conversation with his dad at the Greyhound where his dad's like, listen, dog, you're not smart enough. You don't have the grades. You don't got the athletics or the body. There's no business going to Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck, the only adversity he faces in this movie is that he's short.
Yeah.
And then later, doesn't really matter to the movie at all. He just offhandedly goes, yeah, I saw the doc, and he says it might be something called dyslexic or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
So, does he struggle with that at all? No, probably not, because he probably doesn't do any fucking reading for these 4 years. He's just bothering people into a football game.
Yeah. Because, he basically talks to a priest, and the priest is like, the priest life isn't for everybody. He's like, oh, I'm not thinking about being a priest. I want to go to this school. And they're like, you need some really good grades to go here. And he's like, I didn't do too good. And he's like, all right, tell you what. You do a good semester. You do a 2 good semester. I'll try to get you in. So he goes off and he does that, and he accomplishes this by becoming good friends with D-Bob.
Love D-Bob.
Yeah, D-Bob is incapable of talking to women, so Rudy only cares about football, so to him, talking to women doesn't mean anything. He'll just go up and be like, hey, I'm Rudy. That's my friend D-Bob. He wants your number. Doesn't matter to him.
Yeah. That's also the craziest part of this movie, is that Rudy walks past women, and they go, hey, can you kiss me on the mouth real quick? Like, I don't know I don't know what it is about Sean Astin in the 90s, but everybody loved him, I guess.
It's true.
Also, I love that D-Bob, his seemingly whole shtick is that he works at a Catholic college, and his catchphrase is "goddamn."
Yeah, it's good. Basically, whatever. They're good friends, I guess, and he helps Sean Astin pass school. And then he leaves. He goes to the University of Miami to study law or something or whatever the fuck, and he becomes super rich and famous. Not famous, just super rich. Mm-hmm. Forget the famous part, but super rich. Because when he pulls up to the one game that Rudy dresses for later on, he pulls up in a car with a driver and is fucking smoking a cigar, and he's going steady with that lady that asked him to go to the dance through her friend earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
But whatever. So eventually, Sean Astin does get into Notre Dame, and there, I guess he just continues to do good without, D-Bob tutoring him. They don't really talk about his grades or anything like that, but for 2 years, he just gets smashed at practice. He only makes it onto the team because he's intended to be the the practice team that Notre Dame plays against. He's never actually going to make it onto the field. And then right before his senior year, he asks the coach, he's like, hey, can you put me in one game, coach? And coach, he's like, because he's like, it's, my dad, it's his favorite thing in the whole world is the Notre Dame football team. And it means so much to him. And then the coach goes like, is this just for your dad? And it's a little cheesy, but I do Rudy's like, no, it's it's partially for me. He's like, it's also for everybody at the steel mill or my older brothers that all told me that I couldn't do it. And he's like, all right, I'll put you in then. And then there's a new coach, and this new coach is not about having Rudy on, which is one of the things that people consistently that live this say is not accurate to the film, which is that no, that guy did definitely want Rudy to play once. Yeah. He agreed to let the filmmakers be the antagonist for the sake of the drama of the film, but once he saw it, he was like, I think you guys went a little too far.
Yeah,
But for the sake of
my kids have to see this.
Yeah, for the sake of the drama of the film, he does not want Rudy on there, even though the whole team lays their jersey on his desk. So I want Rudy to play in my place, which again is another thing that people consistently say that did not happen. He's like, there was a captain and 2 other guys that were like, hey, we want Rudy in the game or whatever, and that's how Rudy got into the game.
And the coach was like, hey, I feel the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And but
before that happens, he goes, I quit. I ain't play football no more.
Yeah, he quits because the new guy says, you're not going to be able to dress. And so he goes and talks to his other dad, which is his boss, boss, the janitor. And I like this scene a lot, even though this janitor didn't exist in real life. Rudy says it was kind of an amalgam of 3 different people in his life.
Okay.
But he basically tells him, hey, I used to play in the game, and I never got to dress because I was black, and Notre Dame didn't let black students, whatever. And he was like, I could have quit, but I didn't. I stayed and I warmed the bench because I wasn't going to let them, whatever, win, right? And he basically tells him, you quit right now. I think that's what it is. I think he says that he didn't show up to the last game or something like that. And he's like, I'm telling you, if you don't show up for the last game, you're going to think about that last game for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So he decides to go, whatever, yada, yada, yada.
I also do love, friend of the show, Will Lorenz brought up the trope of the magic black man that helps in movies and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, that's what I can, I can definitely see that. this janitor starts giving him pep talks and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's what this guy's going to be.
Yeah.
His name is Fortune in this movie, which
is.
is
On the nose.
pretty on the nose, yeah.
So he plays in the last game, and eventually they put him in like the last play. I think he plays like the last 2 plays. He did get that sack, which I will say, friend of the show, Will Lorenz, was like, no fucking way, whatever. And I was like, no, that part is legitimately the true part.
Anytime any football happens anywhere, just straight through my brain.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. And someone in a movie after something happens in a football game has to go, oh my God, he just... And I'll go, okay, that's what
Yeah. And then they carry him off the field, going Rudy, 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 or whatever, which I guess, according to people that were actually there, they were like, I mean, it was kind of like a sarcastic thing, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not like, but it wasn't like, oh my God, Rudy's the hero, he didn't, like, win the game. It was just kind of one of those things where, like if you got put in, like, they'd be like, hey, Nick, you know, like, it's like, just for fun. It's just a little funsy thing. So they were like, it's not as, like, grand as the movie makes out. It's, like, more of, like, a, like a friendly ribbing, where it's like, yeah, Rudy, you're one of the boys now, And then roll credits. Who knows what that guy? I think he became a motivational speaker or whatever. He's still alive. So that's Rudy.
I wish they would spend... Yeah, they should have spent way more time in this movie. Way more time in this movie talking about his troubles with dyslexia.
Yeah.
And what the fuck he was doing before he started sleeping in the locker room. Because he was just homeless there for what, like a year?
Yeah.
And they just don't talk about where he's been sleeping at all.
Yeah. I wonder if that's like, I'm just curious, like, between the script writing and, like, Sean Astin's acting, like, is that how he was? Was he insufferable like that?
I don't know.
Because he almost seems like that guy that, like, I don't know if you've seen, I wish I could remember his name, but he does, like Facebook and YouTube, like, you've seen it, I've also shown you one where it's just, like, men in the 1920s, and he's like, oh, what the fuck did they put in this shit? Like, he acts like that guy.
He does, yeah.
He's just like, oh, fellas, what's Lenny the leg breaker doing here? Like, he's just like that the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't mean to sound heartless, but, like, he's literally the whole movie. I'm like, dude, this is the guy that, like, you shake quarters out of his pockets, holding him by his ankles. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not trying to be an asshole, but, like, the whole time I was just like, geez, like, Louise. But, yeah, that's Rudy. And, by the end of it, hopefully you feel like you can do it too.
Didn't.
Yeah.
Also, his high school sweetheart was the mom from The Conjuring.
Yeah, that's true.
Which was fun. Also, there's a point when he's a kid where he's listening to a football game on, like, a vinyl record.
Yeah.
So before I'll say it again, the 50s are so fucked. I would hate to be there.
And I think that's probably about a wrap, and I gotta give Rudy probably like a Rudy plus. I'm gonna give it a D plus.
I'll give Rudy an F. Fuck Rudy, I hate this movie.
All right, and yeah, that's about that. Except for what are we watching next time, Nick?
Let's
see. So this one's going up the 27th, which means that our next one is gonna be on December 11th, and then the one after that. Do you know what day it's gonna come out on?
December 20th.
Christmas Day.
5th. Hell yeah.
Is the next Monday. So, obviously, that'll be a Christmas episode. But, I mean, what do you want to do with December 11th? I mean, do you want to just double down and do more Christmas movies? Or do you, is there anything else really you're wanting to ram in there? What are you feeling?
I don't know. I remember having I had a few in my mind earlier this week that were, like, on purpose bad picks. But I thought, we have to start being smart about this. Table talk. Everyone listening, stop listening. We got to pick one movie that people will go, oh, I'd like to listen to two people talk about this, and then we can pick a dumb movie afterwards.
Okay.
So, I don't know, what are you thinking?
No thoughts. Zero thoughts.
Fuck.
I'm going to finally break the glass, and I'm picking LA Confidential.
Yeah?
Because it kind of happens during the Christmas in the beginning. So
Okay.
That's a 3-hour watch, so choose wisely. We don't need to be watching 6 hours of a movie.
What about a Christmas adjacent movie where it takes place during Christmas or around Christmas, but it isn't a Christmas movie? I'll let you pick.
What?
Either A League of Their Own or Iron Man 3.
Let's do A League of Their Own.
Yeah.
Let's do League of Their Own, because
Yeah,
that's a movie that I really genuinely... I know I've seen maybe once or twice in my life, but kind of like as a child, it being on and not really paying attention.
Yeah, I remember really liking it. Like I saw it a bunch as a kid, but like I don't really remember a lot of it. And we're just on a Gina Davis tear.
Yeah. Just really quick, 1 second. Okay. All right. Sorry, I just hit this in that little text. So that's a wrap, and go ahead and give your little sign-off, Nick. Your famous sign-off that everybody knows.
Oh, yeah, right. Don't forget when you're alone is when you dance like no one. Hey, don't forget that dance like no one's watching.
Great. So honestly, between that and then the That's That Mattress Man thing that I used to do, I never felt that silly about it, but then I felt silly about it when I just listened to Chris Hardwick's podcast. So not in a disrespectful way, but his sign off is something like "Enjoy your burrito" or something like it's an ironic. Yeah, it's like ironically bad, and I'm like, damn, is that what I'm doing with the That's That Mattress Man?
I wouldn't say so. Also, I think you can be mean to Chris Hardwick. I think he's a bad guy. Got canceled, maybe.
All right, sign off one more time because we talked some more.
Hey, don't forget.
If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,